The stars were never quiet anymore. Across the galaxy, every ship, every world, every living creature could hear it. A sound that slipped through metal, stone, and even dreams. It was not a signal, not a warning, not a weapon. It was a cry. A cry so deep, so painful, that even the strongest warriors shivered when they heard it. The crying did not stop. Day or night, planet or ship, it was always there, soft, distant, but impossible to ignore. Some tried to block it with machines. Some tried to forget it with war and drink. But the sound always returned. Whole empires began to fear it. Fleets were sent to find the source, but none returned. Explorers who followed the sound vanished. Those who listened too closely went mad, tearing their own minds apart. Rumors spread like fire, that death itself was weeping, that the universe was mourning, that something ancient was waking. On a ruined colony at the edge of human space, the cry was louder than ever. The colony had once been proud, filled with families and tall towers. Now it was broken streets empty, houses falling apart, food gone. Only a few survivors remained, living like shadows. Among them was a boy. He had no name that anyone remembered. No parents. No family. No friends. His clothes were torn, his shoes gone. He had nothing to eat, nothing to call his own, not even hope. The others in the colony ignored him. To them, he was already a ghost, a child who should not have lived this long. But when the cry came, something strange happened. While the rest of the people covered their ears and screamed in terror, the boy sat still. He listened. The sound that made others tremble did not break him. Instead, he felt warmth. A strange pull, as if the cry was speaking to him alone. Night after night, he sat under the broken sky, staring at the stars. The endless cry filled him, and instead of fear, he felt a kind of sadness, like someone far away was calling his name. The colony leaders hated it. "The boy is cursed," they whispered. "Why does he not fall into madness like the rest of us?" Some wanted to cast him out completely, but there was nowhere left to go. One night, as the wind cut through the empty streets, the boy walked beyond the walls of the colony. The stars above were sharper than knives. The cry grew louder, shaking the very ground. He pressed his small hand against the cold earth and closed his eyes. And then, for the first time, the crying paused. Only for a breath. Only for a heartbeat. But it stopped. When the boy opened his eyes, he saw something no one else could. A streak of light cutting across the sky, brighter than fire, falling closer and closer until it burned the horizon. The ground shook as something crashed into the desert beyond the colony. The people hid in fear, but the boy felt no fear at all. His empty stomach growled, his weak legs trembled, but he walked toward the fire. Beyond the hills, the wreck of a ship lay smoking in the sand. Its metal was strange, not human, twisted with alien symbols. The air around it shimmered with heat and power. The boy stopped, staring with wide eyes, when the ship's door cracked open. From the smoke stepped figures unlike anything he had seen before, tall, armored, with glowing eyes. They were aliens, strangers from another world, and they looked both broken and afraid. The leader raised a hand, scanning the area. Their voices were low, sharp, in a language the boy did not know. But then the sound of the cry returned, rising like a storm. The aliens fell to their knees, clutching their heads in pain. The boy, however, stood tall. He walked forward, his bare feet leaving prints in the dust. The cry filled him again, but instead of pain, it brought peace. The aliens stared in disbelief. How could this fragile, starving child remain calm when they, powerful warriors, could not? One of them spoke in broken human tongue, their voice shaking. You, hear it? You, are not afraid. The boy only nodded. The aliens looked at one another, and fear crossed their faces. Fear, and hope. For they knew what this meant. They had traveled far, lost much, and nearly died to find the truth. And now, standing before them, was the answer they did not expect. A boy with nothing. The cry thundered again, rolling through the stars. The aliens trembled, but the boy stepped closer, his small hand reaching out toward them. The cry softened. For the first time in centuries, the endless cry began to change. And the boy understood this was only the beginning. The aliens stood in silence. Their strange armor was cracked, their glowing eyes dim, their bodies trembling under the weight of the endless cry. Yet in front of them stood a boy with no shoes, no family, and no fear. He looked too small, too weak to be standing there. His ribs showed through his thin skin, his face was dirty, his hands scarred from scavenging. He had nothing. Not even a name the colony remembered. But when the cry filled the desert air, only he remained calm. The leader of the alien group, taller than the rest, tilted his head. His voice came out in broken human speech. You, little one. You, listen. Cry, not kill you. The boy only nodded. His eyes were steady, clear, and full of something the aliens had not seen in a long time: courage. The aliens looked at each other. One of them hissed in their own tongue. Another shook their head, almost afraid to believe what they were seeing. Finally, the leader stepped closer. We need you, the alien said. The boy frowned. No one had ever needed him. In the colony, he was nothing more than a shadow. The people barely looked at him. But these strangers, these beings from another world, were staring at him as if he was important. The leader pointed to the stars. Cry, dangerous. Destroy. Only you, comet. Only you, can guide. The boy said nothing, but deep inside he knew the alien spoke the truth. Ever since the crying began, he felt it inside him, pulling him, calling him. He did not know why. He did not understand. But he could not deny it. The aliens led him into their broken ship. The boy followed without question. He had nothing to lose. Inside, the ship was strange and alive. Its walls pulsed with faint blue light, its air smelled of metal and fire. Alien symbols glowed along the panels. The boy touched one of them with his small hand, and it flickered like it recognized him. The aliens exchanged nervous glances. One of them whispered, "Impossible." The boy sat in a corner, hugging his knees, listening to the hum of the ship. The cry echoed faintly through the walls, but softer now, like it was waiting for him. The leader crouched beside him. His face, though hidden by metal and light, seemed tired, worn down by years of fighting the sound. "Child," he said slowly. "Why, you not fear?" The boy thought for a long moment. Then, in a quiet voice, he answered. "I have nothing. Nothing left to lose." The alien froze. His glowing eyes dimmed, then brightened again. He understood. Fear came from loss. The fear of losing home, family, power. But this boy had none of those things. He could not be broken the way others were. The leader stood tall. "Then, you are chosen." The days that followed changed everything. The aliens repaired their ship with what little power remained. They spoke of a mission, to find the source of the cry and end it. Many before them had tried and failed. But now, with the boy, they believed they had a chance. The boy became their guide. When the cry grew louder, shaking the ship, the crew screamed in pain. But the boy placed his hand on the walls, and the sound calmed, just enough for them to move forward. At night, the boy sat with the crew around the dim lights of the ship. They shared food with him, strange glowing fruits and pieces of dried alien meat. For the first time in his life, he ate until his stomach was full. The crew began to whisper about him. Some said he was a gift from the stars. Others said he was cursed, born only to end in sacrifice. The boy listened but said nothing. He was used to being called cursed. Yet, when he lay down to sleep, he felt the cry pressing against his dreams. And in those dreams, he saw flashes, endless black space, a giant form chained in the void, tears that burned like suns. The cry was not just sound, it was alive. He woke each time with sweat on his face, his heart pounding. One evening, the leader approached him again. "Child," he said, "you must understand. The cry is not storm, not machine. It is a being. An ancient one. Older than stars. We seek it, but no mind can survive its sorrow." The boy met his gaze. "Then why do you search for it?" The leader's voice grew heavy. "Because if it does not end, galaxy will fall. Civilizations already lost. More will follow. The cry eats hope." The boy stayed silent. He looked at his small hands, then out at the dark stars through the ship's window. He was just a boy with nothing. Why should he be the one to face this? But deep inside, he already knew the answer. The cry was calling him. Not the colony, not the aliens, not anyone else. Only him. The boy closed his eyes. The endless cry filled his mind again. He whispered to himself, too soft for anyone to hear. "If I have nothing, maybe I can give everything." And in that moment, the path before him became clear. The ship rose from the desert like a wounded beast. Its engines groaned, its metal cracked, but somehow it flew. Inside, the boy sat among the aliens, staring at the stars as they left the ruined colony behind. For the first time, he felt the pull of the galaxy. He was no longer trapped in broken streets. He was moving towards something greater, something dangerous. The cry followed them. Every hour, every moment, the sound pushed into the ship. It slipped through metal walls, pierced minds, and dragged hearts into despair. The crew trembled under its weight. Some screamed in their sleep. Others wept like children. Their glowing eyes dimmed with every passing day. But the boy remained calm. He listened without breaking. To him, the cry felt almost familiar, like a voice he had always known. The leader watched him closely. One night, when the others were shaking and whispering prayers, the leader asked, "Child, what do you hear? What do you feel when it comes?" The boy stared out the window, watching the endless black. "Sadness," he said softly. "A sadness too big for the stars to hold." The leader shivered. No soldier, no scientist, no emperor had ever described it like that. To them, the cry was torment. To this boy, it was sorrow. Days turned into weeks. They flew past wreckage, shattered fleets floating in silence, twisted ships with no life aboard. Once, they found an entire station with lights still glowing, food still on tables, but no people. Every soul had vanished, as if the cry had pulled them away. The crew's fear grew. "We will not return," one whispered. "This road leads only to death." But whenever despair rose, the boy stood firm. He touched the walls of the ship, and the cry softened. He spoke simple words, words without fear, and the crew calmed. Slowly, the aliens began to trust him more than even their own leader. The deeper they traveled, the stranger the space became. Stars bent and twisted in shapes that made no sense. Darkness seemed thicker, pressing against the ship like a living thing. Whole planets hung frozen, locked in silence. The cry grew stronger here, shaking the ship until panels cracked and sparks flew. One of the crew broke. His armor fell from him as he screamed, tearing at his own skin. He begged to be let out into the void. The others tried to stop him, but he fought like a beast. At last, the boy walked forward. He placed his small hand on the alien's chest. And just like that, the alien froze. His breathing slowed, his body went still. The cry inside him quieted. Tears ran down his glowing eyes, and he whispered, "Peace," for the first time. The crew watched in awe. This fragile boy, with nothing to his name, had given comfort where no one else could. But the boy felt the cost. His body shook with exhaustion after each touch. He was small, weak, and every time he faced the cry inside another, a piece of his own strength slipped away. The leader noticed. "You give too much, child," he said one night. "You cannot hold the sorrow of the universe." The boy answered with tired eyes, "I don't need to hold it forever. Just long enough." The leader said no more, but fear settled deep in his heart. He began to understand what the boy meant. Finally, the ship reached the edge of forbidden space. Here, the cry was no longer distant. It thundered through every atom, tearing at their minds. The crew clutched their heads, blood dripping from their ears. Some begged to turn back. Others lay silent, unable to rise. Only the boy stood. His legs trembled, his body weak, but he walked to the front window. And what he saw froze him in place. In the endless dark hung a shape so vast it seemed larger than planets. Chains of light bound it, stretching across the void like rivers of fire. The figure within the chains was neither human nor alien. Its form shifted like smoke and shadow, but its eyes wept. Each tear that fell from the being burned brighter than stars. Each sob was the cry that had shaken the galaxy. The boy pressed his hand against the glass. He did not feel fear. He felt only sorrow. This was the being he had seen in his dreams. The one who had been calling to him. "It is real," the leader whispered, his voice breaking. "The Ancient One, imprisoned since before our time. Its sorrow has no end." The crew fell silent. Some wept. Some prayed. But all of them knew, no army could fight this, no machine could silence it. Only something else, something unexpected could. The boy turned to them, his small voice steady. "We came this far. I must go closer." The aliens tried to stop him. "No. Its sorrow will consume you. No mind can survive." But the boy shook his head. "I have nothing. That is why I can give everything." And with those words, the journey into madness reached its end. Ahead waited the truth of the cry and the choice that would change the galaxy forever. The ship drifted closer to the chained being. Its body was impossible to describe, shifting like smoke, glowing like fire, heavy as mountains yet fragile as glass. Its face changed with every glance, sometimes human, sometimes alien, sometimes something no one could understand. But its eyes never changed. They were always full of tears. The boy stood at the window, staring at those endless tears. His chest ached, as if the sorrow inside the being had reached into him. The crew fell to their knees. Some covered their faces, unable to look. Others whispered prayers in trembling voices. Even the leader, who had faced battles across the stars, bowed his head. The cry thundered through the ship, louder than ever. The walls shook. Sparks rained from the ceiling. The crew screamed in pain. But the boy walked forward. Step by step, bare feet against the metal floor, until he stood before the main door. The leader shouted, "No. You cannot go closer. Its sorrow will kill you." The boy turned to him, eyes steady. "It has been crying for too long. Someone must listen. Truly listen." The door opened with a hiss. Cold air from the void swept inside. The boy stepped out onto a platform, only a thin field of energy protecting him from the endless dark. The chains of light stretched before him, glowing like rivers of fire, holding the great being in place. The closer he walked, the heavier his body felt. His chest burned. His head pounded. The cry pushed against his mind, filling him with visions. He saw wars that had raged before stars were born. He saw empires rise and crumble. He saw the being, once free, drifting through the galaxy, watching over young worlds. It had been a guardian, not a monster. But others, beings of power and fear, had seen it as a threat. They had bound it in chains of light and left it to weep in silence. Millions of years had passed. Civilizations came and went. And still, the being cried. The boy fell to his knees, tears streaming down his dirty face. He understood now. The cry was not anger. It was sorrow. A sorrow so deep it could break the minds of all who heard it. The voice of the being entered his thoughts. Soft. Gentle. Like the wind before a storm. "Little one, why do you come? You are small. Fragile. You have nothing." The boy whispered back, "Because I am the only one who can listen. I am the only one who has nothing left to lose." The being's eyes glowed brighter. Its tears burned across the void. "Others feared me. They tried to silence me. They left me here. And still I cry. Why do you not fear me?" The boy closed his eyes. "Because I know what it means to be alone. To have nothing. To cry with no one listening." The being trembled. The chains of light tightened, glowing hot. The cry grew louder, shaking the galaxy itself. Inside the ship, the crew clutched their ears, blood running down their faces. "He will die," one shouted. "No mind can hold such sorrow." But the leader stared at the boy, his glowing eyes wide. "No, he is not breaking. He is comforting it." The boy crawled forward, each step heavy as stone. His small hands reached out, touching the burning chains. His skin blistered, but he did not pull away. He whispered through the pain. "You are not alone anymore. I am here." For a moment, the crying paused. The galaxy held its breath. The being looked down at him, its tears slowing. Its voice filled the boy's mind once more. "I have waited so long. You understand what others never could. But child, to free me, a price must be paid. The chains are bound by sacrifice. Only a soul willing to give everything can break them." The boy's body shook. He was weak, hungry, and barely alive. Yet he smiled a small, tired smile. "I have nothing," he whispered. So everything I am, I will give. The being's eyes glowed brighter, like stars being born. Inside the ship, the crew gasped as the cry began to change. No longer sharp, no longer crushing, but softer, almost like a song. The leader's voice shook. He means to give himself. To trade his life for freedom. The crew tried to rush forward, but the door sealed shut. The boy stood alone, his hand against the burning chains, his small body glowing faintly under the light. The cry rose one last time, echoing across the stars, not in sorrow, but in hope. And as the boy closed his eyes, he whispered, "Let me be the end of your pain." The boy's hand pressed against the burning chains. His skin blistered, smoke rising from his small fingers. But he did not move away. His eyes stayed locked on the being's endless tears. Inside the ship, the crew pounded on the sealed doors. They shouted in their own tongue, voices full of fear. The leader slammed his fists against the controls, glowing eyes wet with tears. But nothing opened. The boy was alone. The being's voice filled his mind once more. "Little one, you cannot carry this sorrow. It will consume you." The boy's voice was soft but firm. "I have nothing. Nothing to lose. If my small life can end your pain, then it is worth everything." The being trembled. The chains of light flared, shaking the void. "Why would you give so much, when the galaxy gave you nothing?" The boy closed his eyes. Memories flashed: empty streets, cold nights, hungry days, the sound of crying all around. He had always been invisible, unwanted, forgotten. Yet now, for the first time, he mattered. For the first time, someone needed him. He opened his eyes again. Because no one should cry forever. The being's sorrow poured into him. The boy's small body shook violently. Blood ran from his nose. His skin burned like fire. Every chain he touched tried to crush him, to break him apart. But the boy did not let go. He gave everything: his strength, his breath, his hope. He gave the only thing left, himself. The first chain shattered. A wave of light spread across the void, brighter than 1,000 suns. The crew fell back, shielding their eyes. The cry changed, softening into a song that echoed across the stars. The second chain broke. The boy collapsed to his knees, chest heaving. His body was weak, fading, but still he pushed forward. One by one, the chains snapped. Each one burned away a piece of him. His legs trembled, his hands shook, but he did not stop. Finally, the last chain glowed before him, brighter and heavier than the rest. The being's eyes looked down, full of sorrow and love. "Child, if you break this one, you will not remain. Your life will end." The boy smiled faintly, tears running down his face. "I was nothing before. But if I end as the one who listened, the one who cared, then I was something." He pressed his hands against the final chain. The light flared, tearing through his body. Pain exploded inside him, but he held on. He screamed not in fear, but in strength. And then silence. The chain shattered. The being rose, free for the first time in countless ages. Its tears stopped. Its cry ended. Across the galaxy, worlds that had trembled for centuries suddenly felt peace. Minds cleared. Stars shone brighter. The endless sorrow was gone. Inside the ship, the crew looked around in stunned silence. No sound. No pain. Just stillness. The leader's eyes widened. The cry, "It has ended," They rushed to the platform. The doors opened at last, and they ran out only to stop in their tracks. The boy lay still on the floor, his small body glowing faintly. His chest rose once, then fell. His eyes looked peaceful, as if he was finally sleeping without hunger or fear. Above him, the freed being bent low. Its vast form shimmered with light, its voice gentle. He gave everything. A child with nothing, saved all. The leader fell to his knees. He was a warrior who had never wept, but now tears streamed down his face. The crew bowed their heads in silence. The being lifted the boy's body in hands made of light. For a moment, the stars themselves seemed to bow. Then the being spoke words that carried across the galaxy. Remember him. Remember the one who gave all when he had nothing. Humanity will not be forgotten. And with that, the being vanished into the endless night, carrying the boy with it. Across the galaxy, legends began to spread. Some said the boy became part of the stars. Others said he became the guardian's heart, living on in light and silence. Entire civilizations whispered his story, passing it from world to world. Humans, once small and weak in the eyes of greater empires, were now remembered as the species of sacrifice. The people of the stars would never forget the boy who gave everything. And though the galaxy was vast, and darkness always remained, the cry never returned. Because a child with nothing, had given everything.